And that's what I want to get to eventually. The barriers to this idea of individual freedom of choice. There are a few. But first of all, I think you need to understand why it is that we talk about economics, why it is that we talk about politics, sociological considerations, and so forth. I think it's important for you to understand that politics and economics, the law, all of these things are important because they have something to do with the philosophy of freedom, with the idea of individual freedom of choice. You see, I'm going to get you in big trouble if I can get you to agree with me that individuals should possess the sovereign right to direct their own lives as long as what they wish to do with their lives remains peaceful and doesn't in any way violate the reciprocal rights of others to carry out their life as they wish. If I can get you to buy that, if I can get you to agree with me that we should be free, then I'm going to do a heck of a job on you today in terms of turning you into capitalists and away from socialism. Because you see, socialism is a structuring of the social order based on a nature of, or a concept of property ownership which is alien to individual freedom. You hear a lot about politics and about socialism and about the economic structure of the social order. And there's a reason for it. It matters. It matters a great deal what the legal and political economic structure of a society will be, because it will have everything to do with whether or not we as individuals will be free. Now, because I'm an economist, I got to stop for just a second and I got to talk a little bit about economics. Very briefly, though. Just to make a point. Perhaps you've noticed we don't live in a Garden of Eden. We live in a world, quite frankly, that's rather unpleasant. If we don't do certain things, right things, we pay in terms of a rather high cost for our mistakes. We live, and we have always lived as a people throughout the millennium. We have lived in a hostile setting. We cannot, we never have been able to, we never will be able to have everything that we want. What I want to get to first of all here is a very important point. And that is the universality of the human condition. That irrespective of the social order, that universal problem will always be with us. Which is what? The problem of scarcity. It is the fact that we cannot have everything that we want. We live in a world where our wants are insatiable, some are never obtainable. We live in a hostile world. We cannot have everything that we want. The things that we want, most of them, one of the great fictions of the world is the best things in life are free. You've got to be kidding. Whoever came up with that one might have been a good lyric for music, for a song. But don't believe it. Most everything, not for a moment am I saying that there are not things in life that are free, that are not valuable. What I am saying is that most of the things that we want bear a cost. For example, food, clothing, shelter, as a beginning. Most of the things that we want require the expenditure of scarce economic resources for their attainment. Herein lies the mess. I didn't create it. You didn't create it. Nobody created it in terms of people on this planet Earth. It is a God-given condition of our existence that we live in a world of scarcity. Consequently, we must produce resources in order to acquire some of the things that we want, and herein is the fundamental economic problem. This is what economics is really all about. It is the recognition that the overcoming of scarcity is accomplished through the use of scarce economic resources, and that the creation of economic resources requires the expenditure of human effort in order to bring them into existence in the first place. I didn't say it for the first time, and I'm sure Adam Smith didn't either, but Adam Smith put it very well in a sentence. The sole end of productive activity is consumption. We act as productive people because we need to create the things that are required to satisfy the wants that we possess. That's what economics is all about. We've always had this condition of determining what to produce, how to produce it, where to produce it, when to produce it, who produces it, and then subsequently deciding who gets it. The only thing that characterizes our age from any time in the past is the difference in relative scarcity. Today we live in a society where the relative degree of scarcity per capita is significantly less than it was in centuries past. We live better as a result. We have learned through knowledge, through effort, how to produce more in a given period of time today than our ancestors were able to produce in the past. As I used to kiddingly say in economics when I was teaching many years ago, I gave that up for honest employment. Now, I used to say that really what we're concerned about is getting more goods out of the woods in a given period of time. And what we learned, of course, over the millennium is that through the substitution of tools for human energy, we can get more goods out of the woods in a given period of time. And we, as a result, enjoy a higher standard of living. The more we produce, the more we consume. Now, you know, we've always been taught to go on guilt trips over this thing, and I'm sure you've heard it said about us today as a nation. You know, here we are, what, 6-7% of the world's population consuming almost a third of the world's goods and services? Why, you gluttonous, guilt-ridden people, how can you sleep at night? But you see, what we know is that 6 or 7 of the world's population produces 30% of the world's goods and services, and that in the final aggregate, consumption, production are one and the same. Say's law, markets. The great producing nations are the great consuming nations. We consume more because we first produce more, and if we're going to consume more tomorrow than today, we're going to produce more tomorrow than we do today. The history of human progress has been a growth in the productive output of people within a society which has made it possible for them to enjoy more. Now, no social order, whatever its structure, is going to eliminate these basic economic problems. Overcoming scarcity is impossible in a total sense. The elimination of the problem of what to produce, how to produce it, where to produce it, can never be. What we can do, however, by the structuring of a society is really screw things up. Really mess things up. Because what we can do, you see, is we can structure a social order which is alien to the nature of our being, and in so doing, destroy productive effort and thus lower the standard of living of the people to a point even where starvation results. We do it all the time. And the key to it all is the nature of property ownership. There is an excellent indicator in a social order that can determine the extent to which people will enjoy prosperity and human freedom. And that key is the extent to which the society enjoys individual ownership of property. Now let's take a look at the bad guys for just a minute. Socialism. What is it? Karl Marx tells us in a sentence. It is the abolition of the institution of private property, end quote. The very essence of socialism is that the nature of property ownership in that society will be collectivized. It will be owned in common for the benefit of everybody. Ain't that wonderful? We just got rid of human greed and selfishness and all of those other nasty things that afflict our nature. We're going to have a good society where everybody is going to live for the benefit of everybody else. Socialism. It's beautiful. Everybody will own everything. including the toothpaste that I used to clean my teeth with this morning. As I squirted out of the tube, it belongs to everybody, doesn't it? No, not even the socialist is that extreme in his absurdity. It's utterly ludicrous to talk about the necktie, my Adam Smith necktie, belonging to everybody when it's tied around my neck. Even the socialist understands that some limitation on the concept of collective ownership of property is essential for reasons, obviously, of absurdity in arguing for the collective ownership of goods of consumption.